Well, I would like to go now into the Aries invention, and it's a fascinating story of really doing something for yourself, and now I really feel like it's going to bless the world in a huge way. And when Jim Fosgate says that, Aries for him is the ticket even above and beyond surround sound, we want to pay attention to that. So can you tell us this healing journey, because I really feel like that's what it was for. Emphasis.
Well, the last product that I've done was basically a real high-end headphone amplifier processor. And my goal was to try to make headphones sound as good as my reference system in the basement. Now that was no easy way to go, because that's a very elaborate system down there. It's tri-amplified, all vacuum tube, and it's just building speakers in the walls, passive crossovers. You don't understand what all this is, but it's got everything known to the audio industry that it takes to sound good. So I didn't think I could probably get that good, but I thought, well, it's time to really sit down and see what you can do with a headphone amp. And I had designed a number of them over the years. I have a file in the basement that's probably that thick, circuits. So before I started, I went through my filing cabinet and I started looking at each one, and I had notes on a lot of them, but this one did that and this one was good at that. So I looked at all of them and did a lot of thinking on it, and after a few days of that, I started drawing up a block diagram of how the circuit should be and what I was trying to do and what kind of controls it should have. And then I got it to the point that I built a prototype down there. And I must tell you, I was really surprised the first time I turned it on. I was actually blown away, and I didn't think I would be, because I didn't expect that I would nail it that close, the first try. Now it still had some problems, and it took almost a year and a half to finalize it. But I learned a long time ago, sound has tremendous strength in healing people. You have to play the right kind of material into the right sources. I've experienced this with people in and out of the sound room, and how much better they felt when they went through the demonstration. And myself, it's been good for me. The days I'm down, I could go down there, I can feel better. So as I started working on this, I've been working on the tail end of controlling my post-traumatic stress symptoms from my heart disease. And it wasn't as good as I wanted, and that was still knocking me around pretty good. Most people don't realize how horrible that problem is. But I found out I could listen to Aries and also meditate, and I could tell I was starting to heal myself. I was starting to feel better. My design edge came back stronger, more powerful than ever. My mind calmed down. The PTSD symptoms went way down to, heck, about 1% of what they were, which is almost nothing. And I found out the better it sounded, the better it worked for me. So it became my motivation to heal myself. Let's get this thing to really, let's make it as good as it can go. And I didn't know what that was, but I kept thinking on it and making changes and trying this and trying that and trying the other. Sometimes trying something that shouldn't even make any difference, but it did. So I left no stone unturned. I've tried everything I know. So it has surround processing in it. It has super low bass boost equalizer built in it that we used to use in the car amp. It has hearing loss correction. It has digital inputs. You can run it off Wi-Fi. You can run it off streaming. You can run it off analog. And the farther I went with it, the more I was driven to get it this way, because the more I was enjoying it, and it was making me heal. And I didn't realize this was all going to happen in the beginning.
Right. Yeah.
Just going through this process, that's where it led me to.
Yeah, because you were in pretty dire straits, weren't you, with this?
I really was.
I'd really like you to share about that, yeah.
Well, I got this illness about 20 years ago at the gym, and it messed me up a little bit. My heart was not as strong then, and my pulse rate would get all messed up pretty often. I had to go to the hospital quite a few times, and they would put drugs in me to get it back into the right mode. And I would nearly pass out and have to get down on the floor. I'm not exaggerating, I've done that hundreds of times.
So it was really near-death experiences many times
some
over.
of them were. They had to put a defibrillator in me, and I've died basically 4 times. 9 others it fired and I was still conscious. But that's where the PTSD comes from, because this is a terrifying experience, and it brings it right back, replays it for you over and over and over. It drives you nuts. And
so each time it would happen, it would just feel like you were traumatized, is that right? Like
each time it would traumatize you more, and then your mind would think, oh, I've got something going wrong. All at once, it would play this thing back for you. You think, oh, I'm going down, I'm having the same problem. But then you would sit there a little while, and then it would go away, and you realize, oh no, it wasn't, it was something else. It took a while to figure out that it was PTSD. And I remember a summer about 3 or 4 years ago, I had an awful bad summer, and I probably would have guessed that I had 100 episodes during the summer. Went in to see my doctor, they read the device, there wasn't a single one. I knew it's got to be right here. So I started working on that. Turned out for me I needed a diet, had to get off benzos that I was on.
Now you also had an experience with that you shared a little bit, like you really called out to the universe and just said, what's going on?
When I was at the bottom of this whole thing, I didn't know what was wrong or what to do about it or where it was going. And I prayed as hard as I could one night for a long time. Please let me know, what is the problem? What is wrong? And in the morning I woke up and it said, it's something you're taking. So, okay, so I got online and started looking at all the medicines I was on. And I had all the side effects of the benzo sleeping pill. Some people do that. For some people, you end up in more trouble and more problems than you started with. But then you can't get off of it because it's very addictive.
So you had to come off it slowly?
Yeah, so I had to figure out a way to come off of that. It took 4.5 months. And some of the therapists that I saw to verify the PTSD said they thought I should start meditating and wanted me to learn mindfulness. Because see, for me, being a designer and living in my head, there's my whole life. That's the total opposite of mindfulness.
Yes.
You're not aware here and now. Your mind is somewhere else working on something. And you can't heal that way. And of course, when you get sick, your mind starts thinking about battles, and you can't heal that either. So the meditation helped a lot, but I combined it with headphone listening. I think I listened a year before I started on Aries. And I was really doing a lot better. But Aries is just unbelievable difference.
So do you feel that Aries helps you to release some of that trauma somehow?
Well, it does. One of the problems you have, almost anyone that's mentally ill, which that is a mental illness, you get all wrapped up in it, and you're feeling all these feelings, maybe anger, depression, panic attacks, whatever. So your emotional system starts to shut down on you to try to protect you so that you can live through these episodes. The trouble is, it also desensitizes you to everything else that's going on. You can go outside and you're not all not sure where I'm at or whatever. Your senses are just not open anymore. And Aries, for me, has helped open me all the way back up again. Feel clear. My mind is working real sharp. And I still do live with my mindfulness training so that I'm in the here and now. So I have certain periods of time I will go into design and chug away on that, but then I go back to my mindfulness. I don't just stay there. And in the beginning I wondered how that was going to work. I wondered, will I be as sharp as I was before? And it turned out I think I'm sharper that way.
Yeah.
Wish I'd have learned that a long time ago.
That's beautiful. So the technology itself, you call it healing sound. Can you tell us just a little bit about?
To heal you with sound, it can be done in my sound room, the basement, under the right conditions, but let's face it, that's about $1 million sound system if you had to recreate it somewhere else, if somebody else did. Of course, it didn't put that much in because I built it. You have to have another way to go for healing, which headphones are capable of, because you just put them on, you're in the sweet spot, you have no room acoustics, you can tune out any noises around you and whatever. The sound has got to be so immersive and so spectacular and so fantastic that it totally pulls you out of your head. Now, as you know, listen to a normal stereo or listen to normal headphones. It doesn't do that. I mean, they're good and they're fun and I enjoy them. But it won't just totally blow you away and connect you into the performance in such a way that you just can't even believe it. And you hear what these performers were doing and what their voices sound like and all the stuff that's going on in there. And it turns out, one of the problems with headphones is it's mostly in your head. The center front's somewhere around in here, you know, the dialogue. Left and right's about here. And it's not big like listening to a big surround system or anything like that. So my goal was to try to match what I've got in the basement on headphones, because that was my reference. So as I worked on this design, I kept adjusting it and tweaking it and messing with it to get that kind of a sound feel. And it's very close. Now the left and right are way out here and center is way out in here. And you've got space, stuff all around you. And to me, I've never heard a sound this good, or certainly no better, than all the things I've ever heard and all the things I've ever done in my life. Yeah. And people I've shared it with have agreed. So it's going to be an exciting product to get going out there.
Well, and I think in today's world with all the stress, I mean, people are genuinely stressed and there's a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety, and I feel so blessed to know that this is a technology that can really assist in a profound way, and they can do it in the comfort of their own home. Like you said, they don't have to build a sound room with that type of technology. They can just put on a headset. And you said to us that it literally comes, like usually the headphones hold the sound close,
all,
but
all
this
kind of in your head.
This comes through.
It comes out. You're trying to get it out all the way around you.
So you can feel the space.
So it gets bigger.
Yeah.
Takes you out of yourself. And when you have something that sounds like that, even if you're mentally ill and you're all shut down, you listen to that, and wow, you forget all about that. And you open up and you begin to experience this. It makes you feel good. And that helps you heal. What they have to do, especially with PTSD, is get them out of their head and quit thinking about this thing, you know, think about something else. And you have to have something else to go to, you know. And
so it removes that kind of protective shield, because that protection
it opens you up. If you talk to counselors that work with these people, one of the biggest problems they have, they're just shut down. You can't get them to cry, you can't get them to talk about their emotion, you can't do nothing. The system that we put in at the Verde Valley Sanctuary down there in Arizona, when she first started working with her patients down here, they didn't know what was going on, what to expect, nothing. And some of these are pretty sick people. They would come in there, she'd put the headphones on, and before they know it, they're crying their eyes out. It opened them up emotionally. I mean, it just opened them back up. The things they hadn't felt for who knows how long. So they didn't know what was going on, but when they got all done, they realized, geez, I sure feel a lot better. So down there in Verde Valley, we set up a room just for this with 8 stations and then another one for the therapist to control the whole performance. And it's been quite successful down there, and I think this is something that has great potential because a lot of psychologists and psychiatrists, they can only go so far with somebody, and it's more of kind of hands off, you're over here and you're over here. Well, you're not really connecting and you're not able to channel that emotion quite that way. And sound can do that. It connects you to something.
Yeah, I think that today we're finding with psychology that the emotion and the feelings that have been suppressed, it's so important to let them come up into the light and not try to fix them necessarily, but allow them.
Yeah, the goal, of course, is eventually get to where thoughts like that can drift through your mind, but you just look at them like a little cloud and you let them drift through. You don't have to react to it. You don't have to let it hammer you. And the more you learn about mindfulness, the better you get at that.
Yeah. I know that the first time that Jim put me in the headphones, the very first thing that started to happen were tears. And I don't have any conscious upsets or anything, and it wasn't even that they were upsetting tears, but I just allowed it, and it felt so beautiful.
Well, it's almost like happiness.
I mean, I was...
Cheers of joy.
Yeah, that's what it felt like for me. I was just really like, and I've been in the sound room and had the same thing happen, but on these headphones it was just very quick, though. It was very fast.
Oh yeah, it's real fast. And it works for just about anybody. The only thing that you have to learn is what to play.
That's what I
and
said.
that differs for different situations, for different people and different problems they may have. And there's a lot to be learned about this yet. But I use new age material and electronic stuff a lot. And a lot of it is just incredibly well done. I do like some vocals, I like some choir works, I like some classical things. And when you're working with people with Aries, the trick will be to learn what programs to use for different situations, different people. And of course you can make different playlists, one for this and one for that. And maybe another one that you can play for everybody, which is where you start from. And so I think it's going to go a long, long way.
Yeah. I know in Johns Hopkins they work with psychedelic therapy and they use headphones and they have a particular playlist that they use. So I would imagine that this is kind of groundbreaking stuff that you will figure out which playlist, what each patient or each person needs in order to break through some of those.
It's pretty easy. You just need to be tuned into your the person you're working with and see how they're responding, to it and how they're working.
Are you keeping tabs with the healing center down in Arizona?
I keep in touch with them now and then. I will probably wait till I get back this winter.
Because I imagine they're seeing a lot.
And see how they're going. The one problem they have with the virus, they don't want to fill that room up, so they're only doing 2 or 3 people at a time. So they're not getting the coverage that they will later, when that goes away.
But it's nice to have it in the hands of practitioners that are about healing and seeing the potential.
Well, you're aware that we did some sound healing downstairs in the basement with the big sound system. We had an Indian teepee outside and we did peyote ceremonies. There were probably a lot of times 20 of us, and we would be out there all night with a fire going. And then when it would become daylight, we would go back down into the sound room, and we would all sit around the floor in a big circle, and we would play material. And we came up with several playlists to play for different situations. There were some that were great for the whole group. There was another one that if somebody had a serious problem with this, then you'd roll that one. And so we learned a lot about it, and it works real well. We healed a lot of people down there, and we know it works.
I know that you said a lot of times that's when they would crack open, is when you came from the teepee downstairs.
They could see shrinks all day long. We could do everything we could do in a teepee, but you get them down there and open right up.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah. Well, this is really exciting. I can't imagine working on anything that feels more fulfilling than to have it, not only bless your life, which it has, but then to know that there's, and we're already asking when can we have this, but a lot of people are asking that, but it's going to take some time. But it's so powerful, isn't it? And it's so beautiful.
It is. We sent it to about 8 or 9 different people in the industry to listen to give us feedback on it, and that was early on, and actually made some improvements depending on what their feedback was. Mm-hmm. And then sent it back out with some of these changes in it again to these listeners to see what they thought. I haven't done that for quite a while. It's actually improved noticeably since any of them heard it. But even as it was, they all want to buy one as soon as it comes out. And most of my friends that have heard one, including you,
yes,
you want one too.
Yes.
So the trick is going to be how in the heck do you make enough?
Well, it'll find its way,
Yeah, sooner or later there will be a way.
Yeah, I think it's just such a gift to be here with you and to just explore this, and the fact that it was such a personal endeavor for you as well, for your own well-being.
Well, as I look back on everything now, as you go through your life, and some of the things that really grind you down and really mess you up, you can't see at that point the benefit it may have had for you until you look back on it all. And now I can see the business failures, getting fired, and all this stuff, and even getting sick was part of what it took to be here now and doing this. So finally I understand why I went down this path.
Yes.
As a designer, you think, look what I did, look at this, isn't this fantastic? That came out of me, I did all that. Well, I actually began to think differently after I got fired from Harman and started working in my head and all that, because I was working on this stuff, and stuff is coming through me, and it was like I was channeling, stuff was channeling through me. Mm-hmm. And I do believe, now I know some of it comes from you, but a lot of it channels through you. And I don't know where it comes from. I've wondered whether or not my father on the other side may be one of them that is channeling through.
Beautiful.
Because he never used his gift, and he always regretted that. But possibly he's using it now.
Yeah, fantastic. I think that just that open-mindedness, like you were saying, you have to have the open-mindedness, and when you get too locked down on something, you can't see it.
That's right.
So that's important to step away, which you've practiced, and now you're practicing it even more and more because of the mindfulness training that you were told would be helpful for the condition that you were dealing with.
I can sure tell you one thing, when you've been that sick for that long, boy, does it feel better to be well. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. I was saying that.
You really don't realize how sick you were.
Yeah.
Because your mind's been shut
kind
down.
of, and it gets adjusted.
And when you open up to it, then you really realize where you are.
Yeah. Well, like I was saying, I've never seen you look better. I've never felt you feel better. It's like the spark is there, and it's beautiful, and I'm so grateful.
I felt like I got the spark back, and actually Aries was the key to doing that. Because I think when you get sick, you don't always have the feeling, well, if I want to do this, I could do it, you kind of get knocked down a little bit. And you have to get back to the point where if I want to do this, okay, I'm going to figure out how to do it. And you sit down and you do. And that's really what it takes.
Yeah, and you were sharing about the environment. Like the environment that you live in is important. You know, the people that you're with is important. And then these other tools can come in and support you on those deeper levels of healing.
Well, a long time ago I found that I don't work well trying to be in a manufacturing plant with a lot of crazy stuff going on in the lab. I work a lot better on my own, working in my own space, nobody looking on my shoulder. I can make all the mistakes I want, nobody's going to say a thing about it. I won't like it, of course, but there's nobody saying, whoa, why'd you do that?
Yeah.
And,
a lot of spaciousness.
And you can work whenever the mood hits you. Like sometimes, for instance, I'll show you one. The first part of Aries that I designed was the digital analog converter. There's a lot of us in the audio industry who are not happy with digital because it has a certain characteristic sound that good old early analog didn't have. And they've tried to get rid of it, and it's gotten better and better and better, but it's still there a little bit. Well, I worked on digital analog converters for about 5 years, and it was the first day, January 1st of 2019, I had just made some updates in my digital analog converter, and I went to bed on it. I wasn't even trying to think about it. And all at once, the DAC came into my mind. We call them DACs. And the circuit started floating around in my head. And so this is after I've learned mindfulness training and everything. So I'm trying to hush my mind and go back to sleep. Nothing worked. So I got up, go down there about 2 in the morning, and I just grabbed a pad of paper and I wrote out the circuit, and I looked at it and I said, my God, that might work, but it's probably so simple it probably won't, you know, because I've done things like that before. I got up the next morning and built that thing, and man, that nailed that sucker. It got rid of that sound I didn't like, and now I think we have the best sounding DAC there is, and it's not in production yet. It'll go in Aries first, but you haven't even heard that part working yet. But it actually sounds a little better than without it.
I want to know what your vision is of Aries for global, like a global healing.
Well, it's not like I have the total vision, but I think as more and more people are introduced to it, for instance, like the people down in Arizona, I never will forget, after he took the headphones off the first time after the demo, he said, they need one of these in every place like his in the whole state of Arizona. They need one of them in every state in the USA. He says they need them for servicemen who are fighting PTSD. They need it everywhere, you know. So I don't know where it's going to go or what the potential is, but I know it's awful big, you know. We'll just have to let it.
And because you have first-hand experience of
When you design these things, you don't always know where they're going to go or where the market's going to be until you've created it. There it is, other people can listen to it, and then the bell will click for a lot of them. Hey, I could do that with it, or I could do this with it.
Well, and I guess you never would have imagined surround sound would have been in practically every high-end car.
Never did. Well, you know, I remember, most people don't realize it, but multi-channel surround, which quadraphonic was the start of it, it didn't go well at all, and there were a lot of reasons. But I remember talking to Ray Dolby when I first met him about surround sound. They were doing it in movie theaters, but he didn't think there was going to be a market for home. And he says, Jim, he says, there may be a total market for about 100 of them worldwide. Well, how many million products ago was that? You know.
Oh, that's beautiful. So he
and
underestimated.
He was pretty sharp. He was in the industry, you know.
Those are beautiful surprises.
Yeah, they really are.